Alright gentlemen, today we are going to get into our ceiling traps and Orcs Must Die death trap. So when it comes to our ceiling traps, one of the most important things for ceiling traps is if it reaches from the floor to the ceiling is a very beneficial thing. So any trap that does that, you know, it is going to help you out because you can place them in a lot more places other than your kill box. But we're going to start right here with our C tier. So these are more of the weaker traps in the game. I do suggest trying out all the traps. They're all extremely fun though. So when we're looking at our swinging mace, the main thing about this is it does have great damage and a good reset time, but it takes up way too much space. So you're going to sacrifice like 3 squares on your ceiling. You can't fit many of these in your kill boxes, and that's why this one really falls off. Definitely in the higher difficulties when, you know, this damage just isn't enough to really get you through. And then it's kind of the same thing with the ceiling pounder. The stun isn't really effective enough, like long enough, to make this thing very viable in the higher difficulties. And then the hook shot, it's really only falling in C tier for me is because it's very situational about where you can find to use it, but it does like exactly what you want it to do. So you can either use this thing to like wrap things around and pull them back to where they have to walk back through your kill box. You can set this above like kill zones in the map, like if there's a giant thing of lava or something, you can set it above that. It'll grab them and then drop them in it. And then the other way that is actually like one of the coolest ways to use this thing is if you have like high ceilings with high walls next to them, you can put grinders all along the high walls, and then you could put these on the ceiling and it'll grab the orcs, take them up to the ceiling and next to the grinder, and then it'll grind them up. So that was like one of the coolest ways that that I like to use it. But it is landing in C tier for me because the opportunities to use it isn't there on every map unless you really tailor you know, your barricades to work for the hook shot. And then next up, we're going to go into our B tier here. So for these traps, or these ceiling traps, I really like all these, but, you know, in higher difficulties, the damage just doesn't seem to be there to really take them through. The haymaker maybe could have made it into A tier because it does have, like, it, you know, it stops a lot of the smaller orcs and does keep them in your kill box. But, you know, all these traps are really good. They just do kind of start falling off in the higher difficulties when you start comparing them to the other traps. But they're in B tier for me because their combo capabilities are insane. They are all very fast acting traps. Like if you're looking at the haymaker and the ceiling laser, the cooldown starts when the trap starts. So you can actually like minus that activation time off your reset time, and that's going to give you the real reset time. So for like, for example, on the ceiling laser, the reset time is only like 3 seconds, and then the haymaker, it's like 4 seconds. So it's very fast acting. So these are really good for creating combos. And then when it comes to the auto crossbow early on in the game, and especially if you're a melee character, I do suggest you do take the auto crossbow. It's going to help you with flyers around the rift. And it does add a lot of combo points because you're almost every time it's going to add a combo point on something because it is so fast acting. It is really quick. So that's why I do like all three of these traps here, but they're landing in the B tier just because they do kind of fall off in the damage wise. And it's just when you start comparing them to the other ceiling traps, you're going to want to take those instead in the higher difficulties. So when we're looking at the A tier, for these ones, they're basically making my A tier because they can add effects and they can go well in front of your kill box. Definitely the poison gas emitter with a 30 seconds on that status effect duration. You could put this, you know, 20 seconds before your kill box, and by the time the things, you know, the enemies get to your kill box, they will still have this effect on them. Just the poison gas emitter is not floor to ceiling. It's a pretty big box that you have to work with. But, you know, if you have extremely high ceilings, you're not going to go with this. You will go with the acid shower because that is floor to ceiling, and it will, you know, the duration is not as long though. So you're looking at a 7.5 seconds that the enemies will have this duration on them, the acid effect. So for these, you are putting these in front of your kill box, but not too far in front of your kill box if you want to add that extra combo point. But you can still put these far in front of your kill box if you want to like soften enemies up and things like that. And, yeah, when it comes to the floor traps, I kind of find them, like of these versions, because there's a melting floor trap and there's also the poison flower. I find them more, like, easier to use, and I don't mind putting them on my loadout. I don't take these two, even though they're in A tier, I don't take them as much as like I take the poison flower and the geyser on the floor. I feel like adding the effects that way seem easier, and then it helps me clear up my ceiling loadout for these 3 traps right here, which are extremely powerful traps. So I think the #1 trap in the game is the Shock Zapper, but really close to that is the Ice Lance. So with the Shock Zapper, this is floor to ceiling. No matter how high the ceiling you put this thing, it is going to shock anything that walks under it, you know, even if you're 4 stories high with your with the ceiling. So it doesn't matter, you're gonna hit it. It is very, very effective against flyers. And then in higher difficulties, since they fixed the steam vent, if you pair this steam vent with one of these electric shock zappers, this will start eliminating the flyers even at higher levels when they have a lot more hit points. So it is very, very powerful in that way as well. So this thing has been the top tier trap for me since I started the game. The Shock Zapper, I always, nearly always, unless I'm testing things out, if I'm like in a serious mission, I will have the Shock Zapper, and odds are I will also have the Ice Lance. For the Ice Lance, amazing freezing capabilities, very good range on it. So for this, you're putting it behind your kill box, and then you're hoping it freezes everything within your kill box to really let your traps reset and just hit things, you know, that many more times before they ever get out of it. And then also putting this by the rift, in a couple spots by the rift, is very beneficial because it'll freeze enemies, giving you more time to kill them before they can actually get in the rift. So those 2 are definitely the top tier traps for me. And then I almost put it in A tier, but I felt like this still had to go in S tier, was Molten Gold. And it's not all about the damage with this trap. So with this trap, you are setting it right in front of your kill box. So everything that you want, everything that dies, to have shiny on it, because you are going to get more coins back. So shiny adds a combo point, and it gives you a chance to drop a coin that gives you more coin for all of your traps. And I'm telling you, when you set this up right, you set it up in front of your kill box, make sure everything that is dying has shiny on it, the amount of coin that you end up gaining by like mission 3, mission 4 is very substantial, guys. And that is why I did feel like the Molten Gold should land here in S tier. But I mean, honestly, I do have it somewhat behind the Shock Zapper and the Ice Lance, but I feel like it was so far above everything else that I felt it should go here. So real quick, just so you know, floor to ceiling traps, that is going to be the Shock Zapper. So you can put that on any ceiling it's going to hit. Molten Gold is also a floor to ceiling, so you can put that on any high ceilings. And then we'll just kind of go back through here. Poison Gas Emitter, this is not floor to ceiling. This is just, it's a big box though. Acid Geyser, this is floor to ceiling, so any ceiling you could put that on, which is very nice. And then you have Ceiling Laser. This is also floor to ceiling, so no matter how high the ceiling, you're all good with that one. Auto Crossbow, you know, basically floor to ceiling. Haymaker, it's not many boxes down. You do have to have a shallow kill box if you're going to use that. And then these 3 are all the same, besides the hook shot will also go floor to ceiling. You know, depending how high you got your range worked up and things like that. So, like I said earlier, guys, floor to ceiling traps, very, very important. And then as well, I would always recommend at least one of these, and I would say one of the top 2 you're always going to want on your loadout. Definitely if you have ceilings and you can take advantage of them. And then I like pairing them with the Molten Gold. Like if I could take 3 ceiling traps, these are the 3 I'm going to take. It's going to give me a bunch of coin, and they're going to do a ton of damage, freeze enemies, you know, which is basically applying a stun, which is, there is not a lot of different stuns in the game. So these are very, very nice traps to pair together, guys. So this is where I have my ceiling traps sitting after, you know, a couple hundred hours with the game. I'm more interested in hearing about what you guys think. I would love to hear it in the comments. And then I'm going to be back with the wall traps very, very soon here. I am sorry about the wait on this one. I had some other things to take care of, but now I'm back on my Orcs Must Die grind, and I will have the wall traps out real soon, guys. So I do appreciate it again, and I will catch you guys on the next video.